Hello YouTube. This is a follow-up to my previous video on the Sears Silvertone model 4786 telephone dial pre-select type console radio. I believe it's from 1937. Here's the cabinet. It's coming along, doing some touch-up work on it. Electrically, the radio's finished, and I have brought it up on a variac with a dim bulb, and it came right up, no issues. I have been playing the radio, and it's working fine. Had to do some minor alignment tweaks on it. The IF cans were a little bit out, and the dial calibration was a little out, but nothing serious. So just want to go through the process that I took on this radio. I did not power it up initially in its condition that was given to me. It had been sitting for many years in a basement, and I never really power these radios up unless I do an assessment. So my assessment is, first thing, I do a resistance check on the transformer, and also kind of look around the entire radio for anything that's burnt or broken or has suffered some damage. I didn't see anything like that. The transformer all tested good. The primary windings, the secondary windings, all tested good. No opens, no shorts. Same thing with the field coil inside the speaker. No opens or shorts. However, the audio transformer did test bad on one side. This has got a center tap. This radio has two 6v6 and push-pull audio output. So the resistance from center tap to one side was good. Center tap the other side was open. So had to get a replacement. And that wasn't too hard to figure out. Some great online sources for a 6v6 push-pull output and a 4-ohm speaker. So I ended up going with a Hammond P-T291, 4-ohm speaker impedance, 9,000 ohms for the 6v6, and it works quite well. No issues now with the speaker. I replaced every single wax paper capacitor. These things are bad 90% of the time. If they're not bad, they're going to go bad. So these need to come out of the radio. Also, there were several of these dog bone resistors that were way out of spec. Went through every single one, and on the Riders literature, which is fantastic, I went through and checked every single resistor, and whatever was out of spec by more than 10%, I replaced it with modern equivalent. So in the power supply, replaced with these modern 7-watt resistors. In this radio, there was this resistor here that was like a rope. It tested okay at 140 ohms, and I don't know what the wattage of this is, but I said, I'm going to take this thing out because it looked fragile to me, and then actually when I took it out, it fell apart. So I replaced it with a 150 ohm 7-watt resistor, and it's up in there. All the IF cans, primary and secondary windings, tested good. The capacitors, I have electrolytic capacitors. I have put up a previous video about what I found there, that the internals were all crusty and dried out. Whatever electrolyte had been in there was gone. And so I put a modern equivalent inside the can to make it look somewhat original. You'll note on this radio there's a fiber washer. There's also another washer under the nut. The nut is the negative. The negative is not chassis ground in this radio. It's to this nut. So these fiber washers had to go back in. Got to be careful of that if you run into a radio where you remove these electrolytic cans and there's fiber washers. They absolutely must go back in. Put in a 1 amp fuse here. The hot line, it's a polarized plug now. Hot line is switched first, and then that runs to a 10 ohm 25 watt resistor just to drop the line voltage a little bit. My line voltage here at the house runs at about 121 volts. This was originally in the radio across the line connections. Took this out and put in 0.1 microfarad, 1.5 kilovolt modern capacitors. So the radio came right up on the Variac. Dim bulb was dim. So let's turn this radio on and give you a sense on how this is working. It's actually working quite well. So I'll change my position here. So this is the telephone dial. Let me turn that way. It was interesting when I brought this up on the Variac, none of the bulbs, none of the pilot bulbs lit up. They were all burned out. Let me turn that off. Working well on all bands.
A new investment fund is something that Ackman has been kind of
just had to clean up the pulleys. Really there's actually a wire for the dial drive instead of a string, and the frequency select is actually pretty neat on this. It's a drum, and on shortwave it runs from 5.5 all the way up to 18 megacycles, which is pretty neat. I really like this radio. This radio is pretty neat. So to demonstrate the teledial, so this was normally set up at the seller's shop, or they probably had a rep come out and set this up. So there's pre-select. It's a complicated setup. Actually, I've read the instructions a few times, and I don't know, still a little confusing for me. So I'm going to select a station here. You push the button in, and then you go. Oh, WTOC is on. Okay. So I'm going to go to WMCA, which is down here. And there's where it stops. Then you would just tune it in with the fine adjustment. WOR, New York. Let's see. Here's WOR. That's up a little bit. And there's WOR. So this is a really neat radio. I really think this is cool. It's working quite well. I've had it on for a couple of hours, and needed 3 new tubes, which I had in my junk box. So here are the electrolytic cans. So I had cut them open, put in the new electrolytic capacitor in there, and just hot glued it back together. Still really have to do some cleanup on this radio, but I'm just really happy it's working and working well. It's always a great feeling when you bring it up on the dim bulb and everything is good. There's no smoke, and everything is working. So I apologize for those green lights coming in on my video here. It looks like it's from the pilot lamps. Last night I was on shortwave, and everything was really good there. See if I can pick anything up now. It's in the middle of the afternoon.
In 1 Timothy 3 and Titus chapter 1, Paul gives the qualifications for...
So as we know, on shortwave there are many high-power religious stations, and you can pick them up most of the time during the day. So it's receiving quite well. I'm very happy with this radio. So next thing is to finish getting the cabinet done. I ordered new grill cloth for it, and I need a new eye tube. It's very, very dim. So that's the story from here. Electrical restoration went well. Again, do an assessment before you power the radio up. Do a visual assessment, do an electrical assessment, check the transformer. If the main transformer is fried, you probably are not going to find a replacement. But you don't want to damage the main transformer either by being premature and putting power on the radio. And really, my philosophy is all the wax paper capacitors should be taken out of the radio. New ones are cheap. You're in there, get it done now. There's some restorers on YouTube that leave some of the wax paper capacitors in the radio. I don't know why they do that. To me, that's penny wise and pound foolish. I'm in here. I'm going to do it and get it all done now. So that's it. All the best and happy restoring. Take care. Bye-bye.